And we're back. Our guest in this segment is Lauren Trlica with the Community Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma. Lauren, it's good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're going to talk about a part of the food bank that we don't hear much about, and it has to do with seniors, and I want to tackle the senior part first. We'll get on to the other second. What is it that the food bank does geared toward seniors?
Sure, so we have two programs. The first one is CSFP, which is Commodity Supplemental Food Program, and that's run through the USDA. So it's a federally funded program where we're able to serve our seniors who are below 130% of the federal poverty level and age above 60. We give them a supplemental box of food, cheese, grain, rice, dry milk, things of that nature, really more staple items for them. And then we also have an internal program that we've created to really bridge the gap a little bit more. And it's for seniors, again, age 60 and above, under 185% of the federal poverty level. And it's the same sort of program. We have partner agencies that we help deliver food bags to either once a month or twice a month. And the goal is to really provide a supplemental food for them.
The other group has to do with rural folk in Oklahoma. How do you handle that?
So as you know, the Community Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma, we service the 24 eastern counties of Oklahoma, which is a pretty large region. In the state of Oklahoma alone, there's only 2 food banks. So we split kind of the geographic location there. So our more rural areas, there's often, we call them food deserts, where there's not good grocery stores, they lack resources. So we really try to get out. Right now we focus mostly on produce to those areas, and we do what's called a mobile pantry. We have a mobile pantry and then a monthly mobile pantry. So for some of our locations, we're going every month, and we do 3 sites typically. We have some in Cherokee County and Rogers County as well. And then we are working on getting one down south. We see down south a lot, there's not as many nonprofits or any other agencies that can help provide the food, so that's what we do and get mostly produce down to those areas.
Off the top of your head, because I don't want to be inaccurate with it. What are the numbers about, is it 1 in 10 or 1 in 6 are in need of food?
I think it's 1 in 6,
is that
and
what
I'm
it
not
is?
100% on the number, so don't quote me on that.
Well, I won't put the feet to the fire on it.
But so many of the people we are serving who
Sure.
are in need of food are either children or elderly.
That's scary.
It is. They're vulnerable populations.
Yeah. You're what, new kid on the block?
New kid on the block.
Well, welcome to the block.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, usually when we have Eileen over to talk about it, and the day we're taping this, she's in Oklahoma City trying to drive home the point that, help is needed. And I sometimes think bless their heart, our children in the legislature don't realize how desperate the need is for food in this state. So many children go to bed hungry every night, and they only get a meal a day, and that comes from the public schools. And as I understand it, that's in danger.
It is. I think a lot of our federal programs are in danger right now, so the food bank's role is more important now than ever to make sure that we're providing the services we can to help these kids, seniors, and disabled adults potentially continue to have food. I'm sure folks who have elderly folk in their family know what I'm talking about here, but you get to a certain age, it's just wonderful to have somebody to come by and check on you. Or just, how are you, how you feeling? Just give them the time of day, but with food, you become a member of the family. You do. It's a good way for people to have that conversation with one another. We find that people eat better when they're eating together in meals, so that's why community is so important in supporting this.
Are there other programs? I mean, I know you pretty much are involved with seniors and with the rural aspects of it, but are there other programs out there that we may not have heard of? Like, this is the first time I've heard of this.
Yeah, so we have an entire department at the food bank called Community Initiatives, and we do backpack programs, we do our mobile eatery. I would refer to us kind of as boots on the ground. We're the ones who are out in the community, all 24 of our communities, making sure that we're actually giving that direct service.
I know too, because we have talked about it with Eileen before, but we have seen some of the video from, I believe it was a hydroponic situation where they're going. How's that coming along?
It's going really well. I think they just had a harvest. I was at Good News Tulsa the other day, and they brought out some of the produce from our hydroponic gardens, and it's amazing. I mean, I thought it was fake when I first saw it. It's beautiful produce, and we're really able to get out fresh produce quickly.
When I first heard about this style of farming, I thought, no, that won't work. And then I found out that if they can get water that has held fish, the more organic type moisture in there, it grows even more, and they become, I mean, you talk about real produce,
Yeah.
Hitting the streets. Do you find that the needs of seniors and the needs of the folk in the rural areas of the state parallel one another? Because I know the demands of children growing are different than what seniors are going to need. How is that planned out?
I mean, I think with the senior population, as boomers continue to age out, there's going to be a higher need for seniors who need services. A lot of times they're on fixed incomes, have high medical costs. There's all sorts of things that prohibit them from being able to choose the ability
Sure.
to have a healthy meal.
What sort of input do you get from the agencies out there that take food from you for distribution?
So we try to partner really well with them, because we know that if they don't like the food, there's nothing worse than being hungry and not liking maybe the food that you get, or you have a dietary restriction. So we really work closely with our partners and the seniors. I have a couple of staff members I work with who are out on our sites occasionally, so we can get that feedback from them of things they'd like to see.
And it's one of those things that you really have to pay attention to, don't you? Because they see it firsthand. Now that's interesting. I'd not thought of that before, but the demands for senior nutrition would vastly differ from younger folks, and both would differ from rural settings.
And that's why we push produce so hard. I don't know the statistics, I'm not a doctor, but there's not a lot of produce probably people are allergic to, whereas peanut butter, maybe, we want to provide that because it's a protein, but then we have to be cautious of dietary restrictions as well.
Sure.
So we do a lot of potatoes and onions and really staple produce foods that we can send out.
Now down south, you mentioned the southern part of the state where there aren't as many nonprofits that can take what the food bank offers and then, boots on the ground, as you mentioned, get it to the folks who need it. Are they doing anything in the southern part of the state to enhance that, to get more agencies involved?
We work really closely with Catholic Charities in particular. They have a very heavy presence down south. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a nonprofit. There's churches or other local organizations, and they really know the needs of their community, and that's oftentimes what we see in these smaller communities, is they are very well aware of the needs of their actual community.
I'd be willing to venture that being at the food bank has changed your outlook when you're driving out in the Netherland, if you will, because you can't pass a household in a rural setting without thinking to yourself, now, gosh, I wonder if they've got enough to eat. Has it impacted you?
It has, and I think sometimes when you're driving or you're on a road trip and you go these long stretches without seeing a gas station or anything, people are living out in those areas, and if there's not a gas station and maybe that is their only source of ability to get food, then where are they getting the rest of their food, and how are they supplementing that?
How are they making it become a balanced diet, if you will? You're married.
Yes.
Does your husband ever travel with you on these things?
No, not yet.
You know he's going to.
Probably.
That's going to be the next step.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it'll be, come on in, we got room for more volunteers.
Yeah, I've tried to rope him in. He usually gets roped into most organizations
All
I
right,
work
we've
with.
got about a minute and a half, or a minute, I think, before we have to bail. If there are folk out there watching who would like to become a volunteer, who would like to help in the distribution process, or maybe they know somebody in the southern part of the state that they can enlist, who should they call?
Definitely contact the food bank. We have a great volunteer staff, or staff that helps with our volunteers, and can hook you up with whatever is good as far as your skill set, so we
Sure.
can make sure that you're doing what you love to do. We have partner agencies all over, so we might be able to direct you to a partner agency that could use some volunteers. There's all sorts of ways for people to get involved with the
All
food
right,
bank.
well, that's an easy contact to make. Listen, thank you for taking time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate what you're doing so much.
Thank you.
We're all out of time. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.